Hello, my name is Karen Love, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Dementia Action Alliance, a national nonprofit organization creating better communities in which to live with dementia. There are many misperceptions about living with dementia. Misperceptions can lead to wrong assumptions about what a person living with dementia can do, and that can be disempowering rather than enabling. One common misperception is that people living with dementia cannot do things for themselves or learn new things. This isn't true. It's important for everyone's well-being to do things for themselves and feel successful. People living with dementia can indeed be very productive. They need to be enabled, supported, and for some things, find strategies for doing things that aid changing abilities. In this video, you will meet 4 individuals living proactively with dementia, discussing an everyday activity, preparing and cooking meals, and what accommodations and strategies they use. You'll see as they cook a favorite dish that they are very much able and enjoy cooking.
Well, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Michael Belleville. I live in Cumberland, Rhode Island, and I was diagnosed with younger onset dementia. Next month will make 9 years now. I know there's this misconception out there that people with dementia can no longer do things they used to do before or even learn new things. I found out that after I retired at age 54, that I still wanted to feel like I was contributing to my family. And so I started to cook.
My name is John Richard Pagan, and often friends call me JR. I have Lewy body dementia. As an adult, for years, I loved to cook and try different recipes and try different combinations of foods. For me, the idea of cooking is something I still want to do. I just have to do it differently.
My name is Monica Downer. I live in Louisville, Kentucky. In 2016, I was diagnosed with cognitive impairment with moderate memory loss. And then in 2020, frontotemporal dementia. I still cook. I have to modify things some, but I do still cook. And I like trying new recipes. I'm not able to just watch the video and do the recipe, but I will write it out on a little note card, step by step. And I will look at the video several times too, but I still cook and I still enjoy cooking.
My name is Laurie Scher. I live in Alabama, and I was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's and FTD. The most difficult thing for me to set up in the entire house was the kitchen. And I looked at it and I could not figure out where things belong. And then the people that used to own the house stopped by to see us. And I was crying. I said, I don't know where things go. And so she helped me figure out how to set up the kitchen. And for 1 year, we had labels on all the doors so that I could find things. I would go to open a door like it was in my old house, but there wasn't a door there. So things just were, it was really difficult not having things set up the way I was accustomed to.
I like what you said, Laurie, the idea of preparing the kitchen so that it's everything's in the place where you need it. When I lived alone, I could have done that, but my care partners are my parents and I live with them. So I have to handle the kitchen according to their setup. So often that's one of my big struggles is I forget to check do I have all the ingredients first? Where are they? Put them in one spot so that I can actually get to them during the process.
Having my diagnosis, one of the things I learned to do was I would take all my ingredients and line them up in a row. So as I'm adding the ingredients, I would add something to the recipe, and that ingredient would then get pushed off to the side, so that it wouldn't get added twice, which has happened, did happen on a number of occasions.
One thing I use is timers. everything is on a timer so that I don't burn the food.
I also write down I'll write down the temperature something has to be cooked, what step should I be doing it in, and the time amount. I write it all down so that I have it in writing, and I check off each step as I go through it.
When people say how fantastic the food was, I kind of think, "Whew, if only they knew the challenges that I went through to make that." So therefore, you feel even happier that you accomplished something, because they might not know how challenging it was. But the pride of, I did it, yay, I did it, is just really pretty awesome.
I would just encourage anybody who's been diagnosed or recently diagnosed or even diagnosed for a number of years. You never know until you try. I didn't know I loved cooking until I started doing it.
We can still cook. We just have to do it differently. As we do many things in our life, we need to apply different strategies and learn what are the things that cause challenges and how can we overcome them.
I'm not actually going to be cooking for you. I'm going to be talking to you about how to set up a kitchen, because to me, there are some important safety factors and some important steps, strategies to properly cook, to be safe and cook, and make it so that your head can actually think. I need everything to be in some order: chicken broth, beef stock. Things need to be in a certain order, and labels always facing front, or I'm liable to pick up the wrong thing. So no matter what the label is, they need to be facing front. I need to be able to see everything that's in here at one point in time. Canisters. I one time made a dessert for my nieces, and the flour and the confectioner sugar looked the same to me. So instead of adding more confectioner sugar, I was adding more flour. I would come home and I'd put orzo in with rice and flour in with confectioner sugar and mix the items. What we found was my head works easier when I have a picture and the wording. I need not only, heaven help me if Domino's stops doing brown sugar, because I'm going to be lost. It won't match a picture anymore. But I need the picture of the content and the label. Another thing I have to do, measuring things. If it has anything to do with measuring, it's got to be in one spot. Measuring cups, measuring spoons, anything measuring is going to be in one spot. Because if I'm trying to follow a recipe and it tells me to measure something, I don't know where to look when I'm already in a panic about trying to follow a recipe. Recipes themselves can really be a challenge for me. I end up rewriting every recipe. You look at the original recipe of this lemon roasted chicken, which is an absolutely fabulous recipe. The original was 6 items long. Laurie's style of that same recipe is 11 items long. And the reason for that is if you look at item number 4, says, prepare the chicken. Remove the chicken from the plastic wrap, remove the giblets, rinse the cavity and rinse the whole chicken. Well, I made this whole recipe as following these steps without removing the plastic, removing the giblets, or washing the chicken, because the recipe didn't tell me to do that. So every time I look at a recipe, one of the first things I have to do is rewrite it in Laurie language. Second thing I need to do is, as I go down and finish each step, I'm going to check it off. And I keep my recipes in this plastic sleeve so I can erase it after I'm done. So first thing I'm going to do, preheat the oven to 425. Okay, I did that. Second step, zest the yellow rind of a lemon. Well, Roy usually does that for me, and cut the lemon in half. Okay, I finished that. So in each step, I'm going to be checking it off as I go along. And then when I'm done, rather than throwing it out, I simply wipe it off. And here I can use this again. So I don't have to use all my very expensive printer ink to keep retyping these. I am so fortunate that I have my husband Roy to help me out. Because although I remain pretty independent, in the kitchen, there are some things that for safety I can't do because I tend to burn myself. I forget to put on oven mitts when I take things out of the kitchen or out of the stove or off the grill. And I've ended up in the ER a few times because of second and third degree burns.
One of the first things is I help Laurie with her recipes. She'll rewrite them from what they have in a book or you print it out from the internet or whatever and put it into her language. It's like, this is the first thing you do. This is the second thing you do. This is the third. This is when you add the eggs or flour or whatever. And it's just step by step. There's no going back to how much was this? What was the next thing? It's in order. And make sure she follows it. And I stick close to the kitchen. She'll say, okay, what's next? Or something like that. And we check it off and on she goes. And then I help her with the conversions, ounces to cups and cups to quarts. And then when she's all done with cooking these fantastic meals that she hates to cook, she never was a cook, but she has become a fantastic chef. But by the time we've eaten, her brain is a little fuzzy. And so I'll do all the cleanup in the kitchen.
It took me a while to figure out that my head was not understanding that you can't put the veggies or the potatoes in at the same time as a roast. The veggies have less cooking time than the roast. So now when I'm preparing a meal and I have vegetables and pasta or potatoes and meat, I have to write out step-by-step instructions when I need to put the roast in, when I need to turn down the temperature on the oven, when I need to put the potatoes in, when I need to put the string bean casserole in. Everything has to be step-by-step with the exact time that I put it in. These things make my life run so much better. Helps me to remain more independent. It took time to come up with the strategies of what helps me and why my head was not wrapping around it. And sometimes the first thing people want to say is, you can't cook anymore. Look at all the burns you have. You can't cook anymore. You burn the house, burn the food, you're going to burn the house down. That's often the first reaction. But we've learned that with taking the proper safety precautions, with coming up with the proper strategies to make it so my head understands what I need to do, so my head understands the kitchen, I can still cook some very fabulous meals. And I hope this helps you.
Hi, my name is John Richard, and I'm going to be making a meatloaf today. We have a rule of thumb, for no pun intended, in order to keep myself from cutting my thumb or anything else, is that knives usually get put away immediately after they get washed. They don't get left in the wash basin. I like the food processor because it allows me to go ahead and not worry about pieces being too large or too small. It's a good safety measure for me. And I don't get quite so frustrated at trying to make it just right. We also have a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. And you can see how easy it is just having it all pre-poured. Makes it simple. You don't have to go back and try to figure everything out. Now with Lewy body dementia, I can zone out real easy while I'm washing my hands. So one of the things that I take advantage of is an Apple Watch. And Apple Watch has a wash your hands function on it. And I keep that turned on so to help remind me not only how long to wash my hands, but when I should stop and wake up from my zoning out. Now, that is the beauty of a meatloaf.
Hello, today we're gonna be making jerk chicken. I have my chicken ready. Sprinkle very lightly now. Do the same thing on the other side. This is how it comes out. This is the end result of the jerk chicken. Part of the Jamaican meal with jerk chicken would be rice and peas. That's with rice, and it could be like kidney beans and water and coconut milk and some seasoning and some green onion. For others that live with dementia, know that you don't have to give up cooking. You know, you may have to make some accommodations, but you can still enjoy cooking for yourself or others. We had discussed different accommodations that we make while cooking, and with dementia. One thing, as I mentioned, I set the timer. Another thing I try to do is have everything I need out in advance. I have the seasoning out, I have the measuring spoon out, and the olive oil. I try to have everything out that I need before I start to cook. And now, like I said, this is 10 different seasonings, but before I put it all together, I used to have all 10 lined up before I would start. And after doing 10 different seasons, both sides, my wrist would hurt. So one day I got the bright idea to just mix it all up and put it in a jar to make things a little easier.
We're going to be cooking a meal called polo al chilindrón, which I know I probably said wrong, but it's basically chicken with tomatoes and peppers. It's a delicious meal. Every time I've cooked it, my family loves it. Everybody comes back for seconds. Now we're going to have the chicken. There we go. And what you don't see here is I've actually got the recipe printed and I have it sitting right on the side of the fridge for me. Normally I'm using my iPhone or my wife's iPad, and I have the recipe with the directions right near me so I can constantly look at it and make sure I'm doing it step by step by step. And I'm always reading it and rereading it. So if you see me looking this way, it's because I'm looking at the recipe or the instructions. Now, if you can see, I have all my ingredients. Hopefully you can see I've got them all kind of lined up in order as to how I'm gonna be adding them to the dish. That's another thing that I like to try to do. So that when I'm looking at the recipe instructions, I can just look right here and go straight to it instead of getting frazzled and confused and looking all over the place, and then things start to burn and you get frustrated and angry. So again, it's about having everything prepared, getting everything in order to follow the recipe step by step, and you'll find that it's a lot easier to do than you might think. Okay, so all I'm doing is spreading around the onions, coating it in the olive oil and the cheddar fat that was still left over in the pan. And if I need to, I'll add more oil to it. I am going to add a little bit of white wine just to help prevent that from burning. I know you probably heard it before, but man, do I wish there was smell-o-vision on here. You'd be wanting to eat this already. We're going to let these peppers really get nice and cooked and soft. So this is, again, polo al chilindrón, or chicken and tomatoes and peppers. Really good recipe, and something I hope you'll really enjoy. So thanks for joining us today, and I hope I was able to give you at least a little insight into the fact that just because you have dementia doesn't mean you can't cook. And again, I didn't start cooking until after my diagnosis. I found I had a passion for it, and that I feel like it's still helping me contribute in a meaningful way to my family. As I said before, my wife loves that I've taken over that task, and it's just something I really, really enjoy. So again, thanks for joining us today, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.